We're live.
Hi there, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on Facebook Live tonight to talk about fostering. My name's Liz Dolin, and I'm a social worker in the fostering and recruitment team. And my role is to recruit carers, to train carers, and then I go on to complete the assessments. And I also supervise some carers, but that's just a very small part of my role. And I'm very lucky tonight to have my colleague here, who I will ask to introduce herself.
Okay, hi everybody. My name's Mary Day, and I'm the Workforce Development Manager in Islington. So I run some of the training for foster carers, but I organise it all. So part of my job is to really think about with other people what goes into the training programme and make sure that foster carers have the training that they need in order to do their jobs well.
Thank you, Mary. So tonight we're going to discuss training for foster carers. Quite often within these discussions, it's more an information session where we go through what it's like to be a foster carer, the process of application, what we would like, what we offer you, that sort of thing. And so we're not going to be talking about that tonight at all. So if that's something that you would like to know about, please go back to the Islington website or our Fostering Live, and you'll have a little bit more information on that. Otherwise, please call us on any of the below numbers, and we'd be really happy to talk through anything you'd like to know about the process, if that's helpful. So welcome anyway to this new information session, as I said, specifically about training. And this is, quite a good introduction to what training is like in Islington. We hope that you'll be a little more informed by the end of the session about the type of training that we offer and the support that we give you as part of your role as a foster carer. It's not an easy job. So we're here, as I said, to support you looking after our children, and because they have been separated from their families, there is, they come to us with a certain degree of distress because of what they've been through, which kind of brings me into letting Mary, bring Mary in to talk about a new model that we use in Islington.
Okay, thanks, Liz. I think, absolutely agree with Liz. I think fostering can be a difficult job, but it can also be incredibly rewarding. And I guess what we try to do with the training program that we have is to support foster carers to build their skills, build their confidence, build their knowledge base, but also bring the things they know already about, their life experience, and use that in their learning. So training is a very important part of being a foster carer. There is an expectation that you will attend certain courses. There is a training program that's developed every year with lots of different things within it that we decide on in collaboration with foster carers themselves, but also with the team. And just as Liz said, we are really excited in Islington to have be working with a particular model and have a particular way of working that we've trained all the social workers in, and foster carers also have their own part of that training because they're such an important member of the team because you are directly working with the children. So the what we call called a practice model, and it's a particular way of working that really takes into account children's past life experiences. Because I think what we've learned over many years is that children who come into foster care are often, as Liz said, children who've been in distress, are in distress. Things have happened to them that don't happen to our own children. So the things we do when we're parenting our own children don't necessarily work for the children that we're looking after. So we really need to think differently and focus on, and I think the key focus of our way of working, which won't be a new thing to you, but it's really important. It's about actually focusing on building a really positive relationship with the child, and really understanding what's behind some of the behaviours you might see. So not reacting quickly, but just unless it's, unless it's a safeguarding issue, but actually really trying to understand, what am I seeing? What am I hearing here? How can I understand this child better? And how, in understanding them, how do I help them? So I think the model is very much about helping foster carers to reflect, supporting foster carers to reflect, and really helping them think carefully about, the children and their behaviour in a deeper way. So that's just really briefly the model, Liz. I could say more about it, but just, that's just a kind of the basics of it. It's about building relationships. It's about understanding children, understanding behaviour, and thoughtfully responding to that behaviour.
Putting yourself in their shoes and trying to see the world from their perspective.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Is really important. Yeah.
Putting yourself in their shoes is a really good, because one of the cornerstones of it is empathy. So really, actually, one of the key skills, I think, and most important skills is empathy, and being able to say, I wonder what it's like to be them. I wonder what it's like to be in their position. If this was me, what would I be feeling like? So a lot of it actually is about thinking about that and their experience as well.
And this particular model is completely across the board, isn't it, Mary? Everybody is part of, learning and developing themselves within this model. And so we can kind of practice that with each other, and it's passed down from management through to social workers, foster carers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really important point, Liz, because I think that you can't just introduce a model in one small area of a service. There has to be, everybody has to understand the way of working. So all the social workers have been trained, and the management teams, all of fostering team. So the whole of the Children Looked After service in Islington has had training around this way of working. So we should all be thinking together. It takes time to change. It takes time to, embed models, and it may not be, what people naturally do. So it's all about learning, and we learn together, and we make mistakes, and we look at our mistakes and we try again. And I think, it's about not absolutely getting everything right, but it's about really trying, really thinking, coming back together, and thinking again. This is difficult work. It's not straightforward and easy. And I think we have to look after each other while we're doing it. And that again is a cornerstone of the model: looking after each other, looking after yourself while you're doing this difficult job.
Most definitely, yeah. Which is something that we encourage for all our carers to, find a place for themselves in this, because otherwise you can't help other people if you're not feeling too good yourself. So most definitely. Yeah. So yes, it's a really, really fantastic therapeutic model to be working with, isn't it? And I think it's just something new and different in terms of maybe developing yourself as a person as well as a foster carer, and it's just a fantastic way of dealing with your own family and your friends and other elements of your life too.
Absolutely,
everyone should really know about. I think it's just brilliant.
Absolutely. And just in running some of the courses, I have really seen people go away and try something different and come back and say, that really worked. It was fantastic. That really made a difference. And I really feel like I've connected better with a young person. I've also had people come back and say that didn't quite work, but that's okay. Not everything is going to work. So I think it's about, taking a risk, trying it, and being supported to try it, to try different ways of managing behaviour.
Definitely, and kind of trying different ways of parenting, because things that might work with your own children or grandchildren or friends and family doesn't necessarily work with the children that we're dealing with.
Absolutely.
So it's very, very new and different. So we're all learning together.
We are, yes, we are.
That's fantastic. So that's kind of part of the way we're working, and then we've got very specific training, haven't we? That relates to different carers and what's appropriate for them and the children that they're working with.
That's right, we do. And I suppose the other thing to say is, because we have a new model, we are trying to incorporate the model into all of our areas of training. So although we've had a programme in place for a long time, what we really are doing is saying the model runs through, it's like a golden thread throughout everything that we do. So we take every opportunity we can to bring it into all of our training courses, so people learn the language and learn, you know, it's not something that we leave behind or we switch on and off. So I think we have really tried to thread it through the training courses. So I can say a little bit about kind of the process when people start in Islington.
Maybe. Fantastic, yeah.
Okay, so when people first come and you're newly approved carer, there is something called the Training Support and Development Standards that every carer has to do. And that's really a great induction. So it really introduces you to all those different areas of fostering. There are 7 standards, and it introduces you to safeguarding, communicating with children, contact with children and their parents, you know, looking after yourself, health, all of those kind of things that are just at the beginning. So we have workshops for each standard, which carers can attend and get support with actually putting their work together. And, you know, but that's a great beginning. It's a really good way of learning what's fostering about, what are the details of it. And it's kind of that basic starting point. So that would be something you'd be expected to do within your first year of fostering. But alongside that, you can attend other training.
I'm just thinking, Mary, that presumably that's not particularly daunting for a new carer, because you're working together with other new carers and making connections. Yeah. And that's kind of part of their supportive network, really, isn't it? That's the start of it.
Yeah, and I think the main thing about the standards, I would say, is that it's not about writing loads of things down. It's not about learning loads of legislation. It's actually about writing about, what do I do when this happens? So it's what we're really interested in is, what's your experience? How have you managed this? What do you think is a good idea? So it's really about you and how you go about your role. I think it's not about writing essays or anything like that at all. It's not about, you know, knowing the law, but actually just about, how do you do what you do? And why do you think you do it? Just those kinds of things. Those are the discussions that you'd have in the workshops. You get a lot of help in actually putting it together.
I know, as a supervising social worker, I have helped some of my carers work out what it is that they are doing and putting that on paper, because that can be quite hard sometimes, particularly if you know, you've not written something for a long time, or you don't feel very confident about you know, your language. So I've certainly helped people with that.
Yeah, and I think the best way of doing it is really with is examples of what you do is what we're really looking for. And often people don't realise how well they're doing and what fantastic pieces of work they've done until they start to write them down. And I've read some lovely examples, you know, that people have said over the years, which have been fantastic. So that's what that is really about. And I guess that's your starting point. But alongside that, there is lots of training available. There's
we've lost Mary for a minute.
Oh dear, goodness me. This is the nature of the current situation.
Fine. It was just a few minutes. So you were just talking about I was going to fill in there, but other training that we do offer.
Okay, yes. So the core training program that we would expect all carers to do, just like social workers, every profession has a core training program where everybody has to do particular courses. But I think for fostering, those courses are kind of really relevant to you being able to do your job well and being supported to do your job well. So it's the core courses are child protection, so really thinking about safeguarding children, but also safe caring, which is about how you protect yourself and children within your household, you know, and other members of your family. And that's really important training. We also run a course on healthy outcomes for looked after children, so really thinking about children who may have had difficult experiences may not have good health. So really thinking about, how do we keep those children healthy? You know, what do we provide and how do we do that? And I think sometimes the health course, and certainly, I mean, I've learned things on just the health course and updating it, things change. So when you're a parent, if you're a parent yourself of children many years ago, things are updated and changing all the time. So it's really good to be kept up to date by actually coming along on the sort of health programs. The other course that there's an expectation that people do is first aid. again, that sort of emergency pediatric first aid. So what do you do if these things happen? And we've got a great training company that run that course. It's a 3-day course and it's Ofsted accredited. So, and it really helps you to have all the basic skills that you need to have in order to manage an emergency situation. So I think, and people really rate it as a really positive course as well. So that is something that we would expect all carers to do and is available. Is available within our training program. So those are our core training courses. But then we have other courses that are for different age groups. So foster carers may look after 0 to 19s, but some foster carers may focus on younger children, and some foster carers may focus on older children. So, we've got different courses for different groups. So again, you would talk with your supervising social worker about what's most appropriate to you, or what might be most appropriate to the child you're looking after at this moment in time. What do I need a bit of help with? Because I think also, I suppose I'd say that we work in a huge system which has bureaucracy within it as well. So some of the sort of learning about how we do things and why we do them and is actually quite a helpful process too for people. So really thinking about that. So if you are looking after younger children, there are some courses that are specifically focused around their needs. So looking after under 5s. Positive Moves, which is a course that some of the work of foster carers might be to actually move children on to other placements or to adoption or to special guardianship, all of these things that, you may know something about, but, might not necessarily be familiar to you. So training will help you understand what all of that means, but particularly what your role might be in that. And I think with Positive Moves, that again, when you've got attached to a child, and we want you to get attached to a child, it can be quite hard to move them on. So how do we help you, support you through that process? And the training explains it, helps you understand it, gives you an opportunity to talk about what it feels like for you. And alongside your supervising social worker and the other professionals around you, you can be supported to actually do that process as well as you possibly can for that child, because moves are really important. Also contact, making sense of contact. One of the things you'd be expected to do as a carer was, if appropriate, actually help children to be able to see their parents or people that they've been separated from. So what's your role in that? How do you support that? So there's a training course again that would help you think about that. And I think, I suppose what I'd want to say now is what the training courses don't do is say, this is what it is and this is how you do it. There's a lot more about, how do you feel about it? What does this mean for you? What does this mean for your family? What does this mean for the child you're looking after? And how do we support and help this process? So I think what I would say about training is that it's not like a classroom, like if it depends on your experience of education, where we would tell you how to do it. It's absolutely not that at all. It's about discussing. It's about using your expertise. You may have great ideas about how you do something really well already. It's about sharing with other carers. It's about acknowledging that you're all in this together and you've all got similar issues. So I think that the groups that form in training sessions can be really powerful and very helpful. So the group can be as helpful as the content of the knowledge of the training. So just coming together and hearing about it can be really helpful.
I mean, it sounds to me, listening to what you're saying, that new carers are so well supported through their learning process. It is a huge learning curve, isn't it? And it feels like their hands are being held all the way through, which is just brilliant. So you have the training that's more formalized, and just to mention on top of that, we've got our support groups also for different age groups, which kind of complements the training. And once you've visited, and used all the services, you're building up your support network at the same time.
Absolutely. And I think it's about, sometimes it might feel a bit daunting to come to a brand new group as well, especially if you haven't been in groups for a while yourself. I suppose what I'd want to say is that, you know, carers are incredibly welcoming. They're a lovely group. People look after each other. When we're back in our building, hopefully in the future, we'll make, you know, we make cups of tea. We, you know, we eat together. We are, you know, there's a lovely bonding that can go on. So, you know, I think sometimes it might take a bit of bravery to step into the room, but I think once you're in it, hopefully you will feel welcomed and taken care of, you know, by other people. Yeah. I mean, I certainly experienced the carers group as a very, you know, caring, protective. Group.
And so for older people,
Mm-hmm.
you know, foster carers looking after older people, I know there's some very, you know, emotive training sessions that go on.
Yeah.
Did you want to mention that at all, Mary?
No, absolutely, I will. So I've just mentioned for the younger children, but then of course we've got a number of teenagers who are in the care system who are living in foster care. And being a teenager is tough whenever, isn't it? It's a tough place to be, I think, in life, where you really need support from the parents and adults around you. So really helping carers understand teenagers better, understand teenagers who've had difficult life experiences better, and also learn to understand the world that some of our teenagers live in. So, and sometimes we might have been protected from that world ourselves. So just understanding that better can be really helpful, and having a place where you can talk about that, learn about that, ask any questions that are on your mind. So the kinds of courses that we offer are, first of all, communicating with adolescents, a bit about how the teenage brain works. And that's always a surprise, I think, to people in the beginning, you know, actually, how does it work? And some of the things that we see that we think, why are they doing this, begin to be understandable. So that can be really helpful. The importance of relationships and how much communication really matters, how we talk to, how we are around the teenagers, how much that really matters. That course is run with our clinical psychologists. So we've got a great pool of people to draw on to help deliver our training. We're very, very fortunate, I think, in Islington about the experts that we have available to us. So we've got communicating with adolescents. And then there's all those other things that actually are very much a part of normal life and growing up that we need to be brave and have conversations with children and young people about. So we've got training on gender and sexuality awareness, so we can really understand the issues for young people growing up today. Understand their sexuality and how to have conversations with them about it, and how to know, you know, how much to say and when to draw back. Another course we run, or the Brandon Centre run, who are experts in this area, is talking to young people about sexual health. You know, it's something we will have done with our own children, but actually, how do you do that with children that haven't been brought up in the same way as yours? So really thinking about language, what you say, how you say it, and really what the law says and what the key issues are. So again, that's another course that we run. Our missing and exploitation team, who are experts in that area that is emotive and difficult, and where several of our teenagers may get involved or may already be involved. So they run the training on child sexual exploitation, on gangs, and on county lines. And that can feel, you know, quite a difficult place to sit in and to hear some of the things that are going on. But without that knowledge, we can't really help them. So if we don't understand them or what's going on for them, it's very hard to know how to move forward and how to help. So
how to keep them safe.
And how to keep them safe in particular. Yeah. So really, you know, there's indicators of what you might notice, you know, if actually children are involved, what you might notice, what you might say, what you need to do. All of those things can be discussed, as well as, I think, just finding out things that we may not be aware of as we, you know, live lives that have been quite removed from that. So, yeah, I mean, I think those are kind of the key things for teenagers. We also run some additional courses that are sort of specifically around working with parents and thinking about working with parents who may have abused substances, which is run by our specialist substance misuse social worker. So just ways of actually understanding people's situations better, so we have the knowledge and the skills to be able to have conversations about it, or know when to have a conversation with somebody else to report it, or to, you know, hand it over to somebody as well. Again, very important.
Well,
I think
that's so reassuring, in terms of, just knowing that all that information and knowledge is there, for people to soak that up, and to help their development and, essentially help them look after the children that they have. I mean, that's just fantastic and so well described. Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome. And I suppose the other area that I suppose I'd want to say something about today, if that's okay, is the challenging inequalities.
Yes,
which I think we have always had on our agenda in training and have integrated it into our training programs. But I just wanted to say that training evolves all the time, doesn't it? New things happen. I mean, COVID has happened this year, which has really meant we've had to put all our training online, which filled me with horror in the beginning, but carers have been amazing, and people have been coming, and it's working really well. So COVID happened, so we did that. But also the death of George Floyd happened in the last year, and the impact of that really made us look at our training program in a bit more detail. But also foster carers asked us to look at the training program. So I think what I'd also say is that you can be part of saying, this is what we need. This is what is missing. We need a bit more conversation about this, or a bit more understanding. So as a result of foster carers asking for it, but also just us thinking about it, we have got some new training that is specifically around caring for children from Black and minority ethnic groups, but also thinking about the impact of discrimination on those children and how we have those conversations, because I think people feel a bit uncomfortable sometimes about having those conversations. So how do we do that? So really having some support and help to think about that and what it means for children and for carers as well. We've got a very diverse foster carer group again, so those issues impact on them. So I think what I'd want to say is we try to be as responsive as possible to what's going on in the world around us, and that we will hear from foster carers about what they feel they need as well, and that comes through your supervising social workers also.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic to hear that, as you say, you're dealing so quickly with what's different. And I know we were having a discussion about coronavirus generally the other day, weren't we, and how things changed. And yes, as you say, everything's now online, which can be very uncomfortable for some people. And it's quite difficult to engage doing training like this. But we've learned how to do it as best that we can. What do you think training might look like when we get back to some kind of normality?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes. I have to say, I love face-to-face training, and Islington is very fortunate. We have a training room in our office in Elwood Street. It's a foster carers training room. That's what it's used for. That's where the foster carers come. And in that building are the social workers, the supervising social workers. So it's where all your connections are. It's where the contact centre is. So I think that, just being able to be in that building, you might be able to access many people that you have conversations with on the phone, and you may be able to arrange meetings, see them face to face. Face-to-face training is very different. We've got a little kitchen area where cups of tea, I know support groups and cups of tea, biscuits, food, looking after each other, having lunch together.
Very social.
Very social. Yeah. And it's a real way of bonding with one another, meeting people who you might buddy up with and make really good friendships, people who you can go on and have mutual support, from for many years. I mean, I love face-to-face training. I think it brings brings the children into the room when you start talking about them. It does online a little bit, but not quite so much. Yeah. So, I can't wait to get back to the training room, to be honest with you. I miss it a lot.
Yes, yeah. I know some carers have said, this kind of fits in with their day a little better. Yeah. But training for foster carers that are looking after children is always during the day, isn't it, Mary? It's usually about not 9 o'clock to 2 o'clock.
No, it's 10 till 2:30. So we give you time to drop children off in the morning or do whatever you need to do. Maybe even have a cup of coffee before you actually get to the training room. And you can also make another one when you get there. And then we have a short lunch break, so you can leave early at 2:30 in order to, just be available to the children. So we try to work it in the way that suits you the best, really, so you can still do everything that you need to do.
Yeah. And, just to say that if you have got smaller children that are not at school, we can try and make arrangements to, help support you in looking after, a baby or a much smaller child. I know you used to have creches, but we don't do that anymore, do we?
No, we don't have a creche anymore. No. But there's quite a good system where people can, that they are supported, and somebody may arrive at the training building in order to take
to look
the child
after another person's child.
People work it out with each other, and I think also children go to people they know, which is really important if they've been separated, and not too many people get involved in their lives, too many new people. So that works quite well.
Definitely. Oh, that's fantastic, Mary. Thank you so much. I suppose all that's left for me to say is that any kind of training that we do, I feel is so important, so interesting. And, as part of your kind of personal development, you learn so much about things that, maybe otherwise you would know nothing about. So it's great to put yourself into that sort of place. It's a good foundation for, any further career you might want to move on into. Great for your CV. We actually, we give certificates, don't we, Mary? It's all evidenced training, so it's really great for your CV. So as I said, it's good for anything you want to go into. But generally, as I said, it's perfect for your personal and your professional development. And I really get a lot from attending any of the training that we put on.
Me too.
Yeah, definitely. Even if it's just to confirm that I'm actually doing things kind of in the right way. It's brilliant. I did a training recently, and that involved the consortium, which is the other 4 boroughs that we work with. So again, I'm meeting, workers and foster carers from other boroughs, and so they're talking to me about things that they do differently that we can use and supplement our learning with.
And I suppose that's another point just before we finish, that actually you're quite right to bring up the consortium, because sometimes we do put on courses that are open across the consortium. So you might be able to go to some training. They're limited places, but you might be able to go to some training in other boroughs that we work closely with as well. So that's really, really good point, Liz. Yeah.
Thank you, Mary. Yeah. That was fantastic. As I said, I hope that this is help people learn a little bit about what we have to offer. And I feel, as I said, it's just such a wonderful insight. Thank you, Mary.
You're very welcome. And I think we're always learning. I mean, I've been around a long time, and I'm always learning, and I learn every time I sit in rooms with foster carers and other people. So, it never stops. It never stops.
And so, as you say, learning evolves. Some of the courses are constant and ongoing because they're so brilliant. But as you say, even if you're to redo some of the courses that you've done already, to be sitting in a room with different people changes everything. Changes the experience, doesn't it? And what you get from that.
And I think we are always updating. So, new things come about all the time. So there is always something that may be slightly different, even in the courses that are really core training as well.
Definitely. Brilliant. Oh, thank you so much. Anybody that would like to know anything else about fostering, which hasn't been discussed today, or, part of, as I said, the application process, please call us on the below number. As I said, we're happy to talk. We've got a duty social worker that's available 9 to 5, and they will be there to answer your call. So ring us whenever. And we're, as I said, available to talk to you and answer any questions. So thank you so much. Mary, thanks once again.
You're welcome, Liz. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.